everyone, welcome to the Knitteratti podcast. If this is your first time watching, I do hope you enjoy it, and if you're a returning viewer, thank you so much for coming back. Hopefully you'll find something else to keep you coming back in this week's episode. I'd like to start out this week by giving a big shout out to Jennifer, who is my latest patron. For those of you who don't know what a patron is, or you aren't familiar with Patreon, there is a link in the description of this episode. Basically what happens is you pledge so much a month, and then depending on how much you pledge, you get different benefits. So I think for the lowest tier is early access to the podcast, and a shout out. The next tier up is tier 1 plus some extra, and then tier 3 is tier 1 plus 2 plus some extra. So I'm not going to bore you with going through the whole lot, but if anybody is interested in getting some extra access or extra help with their knitting, or video chats with me, or anything like that, pop over, take a look and see if any of those benefits are useful to you. Okay, I'd also like to take some time to thank everybody for their lovely comments from last week. It's been really, really nice to have some support. I know some people, sorry, there's some dog hair on there. Some people, were suggesting that it was my own fault. To be honest, I'm not going to stop being a giving person just because one person was an ass and tried to take advantage of it. So yeah, whereas I should have gotten a contract beforehand. Yeah, I should. But you know what? This person contacted me. They said, I'm in a bind. I need something quickly. And I did it. If you want to say that that's my fault, okay, fine. But as I said, if I see somebody and I can help out, I'm going to help out. And I'm not going to say, no, I'm not going to help you out of a hole because one person was an ass and tried to take advantage of me. If that means that I get taken advantage of again, so be it. I don't go around looking for it, but at the same stage, I've made a lot of wonderful friends just from being an open person who gave what they could. And, I'm glad that I haven't missed out on some of the opportunities that I've gotten just from being that way. Anyway, I think that's enough of that. And what I'm going to show you first, you may remember that I had ripped this back last week because I had done it all in stockinette. Let's see if I have. I do. So again, this is Easy Knits. You'll recognise it if you've been watching over the last few weeks. I got this at the Edinburgh Yarn Festival. I've nearly used up all of the yarn that I bought there, so I'm quite happy with myself. And this is Night Stalker in the fidget lace base. And there we go, about 800 metres of that. So it was all in garter. This is supposed to be kind of like a my first shawl pattern. So it's just very, very basic to give people who are new to shawl knitting a chance to get used to the shape. So this is just the very basic triangular shape. And then I'm adding in, towards the end, some very basic and easy lace. Really just some eyelets. And it's just to, just to let them get a hand in. Because some of the feedback that I've been getting is that when people are using lace weight, and I just try and show you, wrapped around over here. Okay. So this is the thickness of lace weight, and people who are new to using it seem to find just trying to manipulate a yarn this thin to be difficult enough as it is. So I guess that's the main reason that I've decided to do such an easy shawl in lace weight. And as I've mentioned before, I am hoping to put out a series of patterns they're going to be literally knitting in easy steps, so it's going to be the easiest thing that you could start off with. So I mean, I know that this won't appeal to some of the more advanced knitters, but it's not meant for a more advanced knitter. So just saying a little bit more about the yarn. I have frogged this, and if we just take a look at, as you can see, it's held up pretty well, and there is a little bit of a halo. You can actually see it more in person than you can on camera. But given what I've done with it, you know, I've knitted up and pulled it out and knitted up and pulled it out, and, you know, I think it's holding up very well. The thing that I find about merino is that it does pill very, very quickly. And that's just a characteristic of the yarn. That's nothing to do with Easy Knits or this particular brand or how it was dyed or anything like that. It's just a characteristic, I found anyway, of merino. I do find that it can pill quickly. So I'm very happy with how I've been going with this, because it has had a lot of manipulation, and yes, there is a little bit of a halo, but it's not that bad. And if I come down to here, and again, you're not going to really be able to see this, unfortunately. I think it's not coming off very well on camera. You can see there is a little bit of fuzziness, but it's, you know, this is the part that I've only knit once, and comparing it to the part that's been pulled out and re-knit, there's not too much of a difference. So I'm actually quite happy with that. It's turned out better than I was expecting. Unfortunately, I think I've kind of lost the light here, but I try to use natural light because I think it gets the colours across better. There's more dog hair. Right, when you're in this house, there's dog hair on everything. It is that time of year when my shepherds are really shedding. They shed all year, but they shed a lot more twice a year when they renew their coats, and it just ends up everywhere. Anyhow. And yeah, as for the speckling, I do think that the stockinette sections are setting off the yarn a lot better than just knitting it in garter stitch did. So I'm actually really happy with just these little pops of colour in the grey. And I think that the little bit of extra texture as well is suiting me a lot better. So yeah, I'm very happy that I pulled it out and re-knitted. I mean, I know a lot of people kind of agonise over, oh, should I pull it out? Should I just keep going because I've put in so much work? I'm so much happier with this now that I've pulled it out and redone it. So I would definitely recommend, if you're having any second thoughts at all, pull it out, have another go. And there's no point in knitting it and putting in all of that time and effort, and also the cost of the yarn, for something that you're not going to be happy with at the end and you're not going to want to wear. So that's that. I'll just put that to one side. Now, I shouldn't, but I did. This is Manos del Uruguay, and I haven't brought the tag with me. Hopefully I'll remember to bring it in for next week. This is also merino. It's also knitting up very nicely, but the colours, oh, they're magnificent. They're quite nice on camera. They're actually pretty true. Yeah, I'm quite happy with how that's coming out. Yeah, I'm really enjoying working with this at the moment. My biggest problem is, some of you will recognise these. These are Knit Picks, I think they're called in America. They're KnitPro over here. And these are the Symphonie needles. Oh, clearly I need to redo my nails, sorry. And you can see how close in colour it is to the yarn that I'm using. This is a lace weight yarn. And you can see it kind of gets lost. I mean, it's not completely lost, but if it hits the wrong part of the needle, I mean, it's quite clear there. But if it hits the wrong part of the needle, all of a sudden, it becomes very difficult to see the stitches. So much as I love these needles, they are wonderfully smooth. I do have a problem with them in the smaller sizes. So I do have a sock set of these. And because they're so thin, the tips come off them so quickly. And I have to say, I would not buy another set of these in a sock set, if that's what you want to call it. I think that is what they were sold as. But these are 4mm and it's absolutely fine. I have no problem with using the 4mm ones. They seem to be holding up a little bit better. What do I have there? There we go. And they are lovely and smooth. You know, the yarn, I have no problem with it getting caught on it or anything like that. They're not hugely slippery, but they are quite smooth. But yeah, another thing that would put me off buying them again, they are beautiful. They are absolutely gorgeous. And I can't use every colour yarn on them because it just becomes difficult. And I'm kind of at a point where, you know, if I'm knitting, I want to be in good light anyway, especially with lace weight, because if you're doing anything that's anyway complicated, you do want to be able to see what you're knitting. And really, these just aren't fitting the bill for me anymore, not for this project anyway. You know, certainly if I was using maybe a bright pink or something like that, they would be useful, but it's just something to be careful of when you're buying your needles, because I know there's also the zings and different needles like that, and you know, they're highly coloured and they do look fantastic, but you can't use, like if your needle is pink and you're using a pink yarn, all of a sudden it becomes more difficult to see your stitches. So that is just one thing for me that I found. Now I haven't done too much on this week because I wasn't supposed to cast on anything new, and I did. I wanted to get much further through that Easy Knits shawl before I continued. And because this is knit centre out, it will be difficult for me to show you everything. This is just about ready to come off the DPNs and onto a circular needle. I actually could have done it on a 9-inch circular, but my 4mm 9-inch circular is in use elsewhere, so just a very simple lace pattern going in there. And see, so you can kind of see there that I'm losing some of the stitches. But yeah, this stuff is wonderfully soft, very light, and I'm really looking forward to wearing it because I don't think I have anything that's in this almost I don't want to call it a muted green, but it's certainly not as bright as some of the other greens that I've used before. As you can see, I'm keeping the lace motif to be quite large, because sometimes when you're using a variegated yarn, your lace will get lost in it. So that's why I want to make sure that this is quite large and can be seen easily, you know, so that it's still visible. So yeah, that's the beginning of that. And as I said, I've only put a few hours into it because I did really want to do more on the Easy Knits shawl, and also on the pink and grey mosaic scarf, which I'm going to come to in a minute. So hopefully I'll have a bit more to show you on this next week, and I'm just going to push these back onto the needles because trying to pick up all of these lace stitches not make me very happy. Okay, I'll just wind this up a little. Okay, I seem to have a little, I hate it when that happens. Okay, and I won't bore you with me fixing it. I'll sort it later. Okay, so again, I was very bad. I had a headache the other night, and I just wanted something with nice short rows where I could go round and round and round in a circle. So I cast on, and this time I'm using my 9-inch circulars. So yes, this is the same West Yorkshire Spinner sock yarn that I was using for the last few weeks that I've already completed a pair of socks in. And I actually want to see if I can get a pair of ankle socks out of this. I think I can. Basically because my husband is wearing shorts now, because even though it's very, very rainy over here, it's also still quite warm. So I thought it would be nice to have a pair of ankle socks that he can wear. Sorry, my dog has decided that... I believe there's a bird outside, and I'll just pause for a moment. Okay, sorry about that, guys. That was actually the postie. Okay, so as I was saying, I just wanted something to go round and round in a circle, so this is just going to be an ankle sock. I'm doing it on 9-inch circulars, but it's the same needle size as the last time, same number of stitches. I might try a different heel, I'm not sure yet. I'll have to wait and see. But as you can tell, there's no real issue with laddering. Let's try and focus that a bit more. I can kind of see something here. I think that's just because I left, you know, that's where I left the stitch. So if I come over to this side, oh, there is a little bit of something going on there. I don't know why, because it's just round and round. There is no DPN. But there, it's gone now anyway. It's probably down to how I hold it when I'm knitting. I tend to hook my finger in and pull, just to get that little bit of stretch. So perhaps that's what's causing it, but either way, this is a lot easier and a lot faster than the DPNs. So if any of you haven't tried a set of 9-inch circulars yet, I would definitely recommend it. Now I know last week I showed you, and I haven't actually used them yet. I have gotten a set of 9-inch 1.5 mils. So I will be doing a review on those in the coming weeks, I believe. Just the project that I need them for, I'm not going to start into properly until the weather gets a lot cooler. But I might cast on a little something just to show you. So yeah, definitely. As you can see, I have no problem knitting with them. I know a lot of people say that they do. And what I would suggest, if you are going to try them, you know, first of all, hook your finger in. That really helps me. I know some people are trying to, you know, do it the way they would normally knit. But, I mean, that cable is fairly sturdy where it comes off the end. So if you need, you know, if you need the needle size to be longer, hold on to the cable like it's the needle, because by the time you have some fabric on there, it might as well be. Sorry, I'll try and knit a little slower. I know some people get travel sickness if I move too quickly. And again, on this side, I hook in and I'm using the cable almost like it's a needle. It just takes a few minutes to get used to it. And after that, I find it's not a problem at all. You know, there are 9-inch circular groups on Facebook. So there are plenty of people out there using it. If you did want to get a little more advice on it, you could try joining there and see what other people are saying, see how they're finding it. I find for sock knitting it is a lot faster, or mittens or anything like that. I mean, it's probably just a little over an hour. And I'm lucky enough in that I can do magic loop at the beginning, so I have no problems doing the toes on them. I know a lot of people find them too small for doing the toes, but you know, I can start out with 16 stitches. I didn't on this sock, but I have on other socks started out with 16 stitches and worked my way up, and I have no problem doing it with these needles. So they're definitely worth a go. And hopefully by next week I'll have decided what sort of heel I'm putting into these, and we'll have something a little different to discuss. Okay, so what else? Yep, we still have, and I'm still working on this scarf, which is Dyne-NG yarn. I still haven't had any issues with it at all. Still really enjoying it. you know, I don't want to keep repeating myself every week, but because this is a weekly podcast, you know, I don't have as much time to devote to this as I normally would. Like normally I would just sit and work on this for a few days and I'd make a huge amount of progress, but really all I'm getting done every week is kind of one pattern repeat. You know, because it is lace weight and it does take a little bit of effort to get it done. I think these needles are about a 2 or 2.5. Let's see if I can get a little bit of focus here. Yeah, and I believe that these are Addies, which I'm still enjoying. So yeah, I'm actually really sorry that you can't feel this, you know, because you can see it has a lovely bit of stretch in it, even though the stitches are already stretched because it's mosaic knitting. So you can see, especially with the pink ones, I think you can see where I've slipped them. See that one there, how much bigger it is than the dark ones next to it? Because that's how it's done. I have 2 colours going, but I only ever use one colour at a time. So the last row I did was pink, so the next one will be grey. And then I'll work across, and then I'll work back with the grey, and then I'll swap to the pink. So I'm getting this lovely pattern that looks quite complicated. Well, not that it's complicated, I mean it's a simple pattern, but to knit it you would think that it would be more complicated, that I would be working 2 colours at once, and I'm really not. It's just one at a time. And it's still, for something that's so light, because it's just lace weight, it is still quite squishy and quite lovely. I'm really looking forward to blocking it, because I think it will look even better once it's done. If I just try giving this a little pull here to... So you can see as I'm pulling it, you're seeing a little more pink in there. It's kind of getting lost at the moment, but hopefully that'll show up when it's done. Actually, I don't think I've ever really given you a look at the back. So again, because I'm only working 1 colour at a time, the back is really neat, and you know, I'm not slipping any more than 2 stitches at a go. So it means that I don't have any big loops back here. And I mean, I know it's the wrong side and it doesn't have to look as nice, but I actually like that look. It's just, you know, a nice way of marrying the 2 colours together, I suppose. So, there we go. That's this week's work in progress. Oh, what I have forgotten to say. My spring into summer shawl from last week, I am hosting a KAL, which is starting this Friday. So if you're a patron, you'll be seeing this video on today, Wednesday, if I can get enough network connection to actually get it up. Or everybody else, it's released to on Thursday. So Friday, the following day, sorry, just adjust my camera a bit, the KAL is beginning. So if you want to take part in that and you don't have your yarn ready, that's okay, just sign up. We have a few people signed up already. Let me know that you want to participate, and then you can just start in whenever you have your yarn. I've put an end date of it of a month. That's really just to put an end date in. I think what I'll do is I'll see how people are going, and if I need to adjust that out a little bit, I can do that. The pattern is free. It's the Spring into Summer Shawl. You'll find it on Ravelry. If you do want to sign up for the knit along, you can go to the Knitteratti Ravelry group. That's KnitteRatti. So that's 4 T's altogether. And you can just tell me that you're in. I would like to give something small away at the end. It will probably have to be small, to be honest. But we'll wait and see, and that will be chosen randomly if I do. I think I will. My biggest issue at the moment is, as I've said before, with postage. So what I'm actually considering doing is not sending something from here, but actually just getting something and having it shipped directly to the winner. and that kind of maybe will get around some of the shipping charges. They might not be as astronomical as they would be if I shipped it from here. So definitely, if you're interested in trying a hand at that, there will be plenty of support. Duck over to the Ravelry group. There's a thread there. Just sign up and, we'll all have a good time, hopefully. Next Saturday is Worldwide Knit in Public Day. Last year I did go to an event that was being held at one of the local yarn stores, but I don't think there's actually anything really organised for my area for this year. In Ireland, looking at the website, there's a group in Galway, a group in Cork, and there is a group in Dublin, which would be the closest to me. But they seem to be meeting in Stephen's Green, which is a large enough area, and I kind of feel a bit awkward about going around looking for a group of people that I don't know. But also, if it rains, they said, we'll go to the nearest coffee shop. But in Stephen's Green, there could be 100 nearest coffee shops, if that makes sense. It depends on which side of the park you come out of, and, then you'd still have a choice of several different coffee shops that you might go to. So to be honest, I can't see myself going into that, just purely because there's so much up in the airness about it. I could go in, and if it starts to rain, then where has everybody gone? I could be wandering around for hours looking for this group of knitters. So with that in mind, I don't think that I'll be doing anything organised unless somebody wants to contact me for, to organise a small group. But it's a little bit disappointing this year. If I had realised, maybe I should have tried organising something myself. But the problem is, a lot of the people who watch this are actually American or Canadian. I know I have viewers in lots of different countries, but basically none in Ireland, which is fine. It just means that if I do want to organise something, it becomes quite difficult. So yeah, I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do with myself on that day. I know I do have to do some stuff with the family, because that's what weekends are for around here. And when I say the family, I mean my husband and our 2 dogs. We do our best to get out and do stuff all together as a group, which if you have dogs and you're not doing that, you really should. You'll bond a lot more with your dogs if you include them in what you're doing. Basically, I think we've gotten a lot more out of it because we do that, and I think they enjoy it a lot more as well. But this is not a podcast about dogs, so I'll stop going on about them so much. What else? Okay, last week I showed you a book that I had ordered with thanks to my patrons that I'm going to be doing a review on. I haven't gotten far enough into the book where I'm happy to give a proper review yet, so I'll probably have to push that off until next week. There are certainly, at this point, I'm certainly mixed in my opinion, but I think if I was a different type of person, I would be getting more out of it. You know what? I'm actually going to refrain from saying anything else until I do a full review so that you can understand it a bit better. Because I'm enjoying the book. I don't want to give it a poor review. I certainly don't see myself giving a poor review. But I think that some people will get more out of it than I will. And I suppose I'll leave it at that, which is a little bit cryptic. So this week for the technical section, I've had some suggestions from Louise, which is fantastic. Thank you, Louise. And I'm actually going to break it up over 2 weeks, which I hope you don't mind. This week I'm going to do Magic Loop, because I think that if I do Magic Loop this week, the Turkish cast on next week will make more sense and will be clearer to people. So this week it is going to be magic loop. If any of you haven't done that before, it's definitely a skill that you should learn. It's not one of my favourite things to do, to be honest. I quite avoid it, but I'm very happy that I know how to do it. And like I said, it is something that you should try at least once. So yeah, I'm going to do that now in just a minute. If you're not interested in watching the technical section, thank you so much for watching this far. Please do like and subscribe. It does help me to get out there and, you know, to become more visible. If you've seen anything that you dislike, by all means hit the dislike button. You absolutely should. But I would suggest that you let me know what it is you dislike, because other than that, I'm just going to ignore it. I can't do anything about a dislike if I don't know why they dislike it or why you dislike it. So yeah, if you want it to be meaningful and you want me to actually pay attention to it, you need to comment below and just let me know what it is that you don't like. So there we are. Okay guys, I shall see some of you in a minute, and to the rest of you, thank you so much, and hopefully I'll see you next week. And we're back. Okay, so today, as I've said, we are going to discuss magic loop. Magic loop is a way of knitting in the round when you have a very small number of stitches, but you don't want to use DPNs, which are double pointed needles. To show you an example of a DPN, you've seen them before. So these here, you can see they have points on both ends, and you use them for knitting in a circle normally. That's the traditional use. So as you can see, I've got a cable needle here with, sorry that's not showing up very well. I have a cable needle with quite a long cable. And just in case you're wondering, I have my shawl back here because as I was casting on my stitches, I could hear how much banging this cable was doing against the table, like that. And I'm just trying to avoid the noise. When doing this, you want quite a long cable. Now, I know I said earlier that I can do magic loop on 9-inch circulars. I've done a lot of magic loop. It's not my favourite thing to do. I feel as though I spend an awful lot of time kind of adjusting my stitches on the needle. But when you're starting out, you want a nice long cable, okay? It gets very, very fiddly if you're doing it with a short cable. I would also say you've seen me, if you've been watching the podcast for a while now, you'll have seen me use circular needles with a metal cable. That won't do. You want to be able to, you know, you want a flexible cable that you can double over, and the metal cables just aren't going to cut it. So there you go, long flexible cable to start off with. Okay, so I've just cast on 10 stitches here just to have something to work with, and what I'm going to do to start off is I'm just going to pull them down onto the cable. Okay, so just pull them off the needle and onto the cable. Here we have 2, 4, 5, okay, and then 2, 4, 5. So I'm going to split these stitches in half by pulling the cable through. Okay, so I have half on one side, half on the other, and this loop of cable coming at the back. So the last stitch that I cast on was on this side, which means the next stitch that I want to knit in the circle is this one over here. Okay, now sorry, you can hear the needle clunking against the table a bit. So what I'm doing is I'm just pulling that cable through these stitches, and I'm pushing these stitches up onto the needle. Okay, and then the stitches, the other 5 stitches, just leave them sitting on the cable, and that gives you enough flexibility to bring your other needle over and just knit these 5. Just making sure that my yarn isn't threaded through my cable. I don't want to add on any yarn overs or anything like that. So I'm just going to knit the 5 stitches. 1, 2, I just want to change the focus there a little. There we go. 3, 4, 5. Okay, so that's the first half of the row knit. And you can see we're making a little circle here. So the next stitch that I want to knit is down here on the cable. So if I want to knit it, it has to be on a needle. So I'm just going to pull this cable through. Sorry, I've just hit the camera there. So I'm pulling at the cable until these stitches come up on the needle. Now you'll notice that these stitches at the back here, they get very tight and they don't want to go up on the needle. So the way I get around that is, you want to loosen the yarn that's in the middle here, and it will be tight, you know, because these stitches aren't supposed to have a gap between them. So the easiest thing to do is pull these ones, pull that needle out, which you'll have to do anyway, and then hold that cable right up next to the stitches. Okay, so you're putting one stitch right next to the other, and you're allowing some extra yarn to come into play there. And I'll just push these on. You see, this for me is why I find magic loop fiddly, because I do end up having to, you know, to stop to adjust these stitches, and you can see there is plenty of yarn there, so this should be pushing up quite easily. There we go. There we go. So the stitches we've just knit are now down on the cable, and the stitches that we want to knit are up on the needle. Okay? And we just do the same thing again. So I take my yarn and I knit 1, 2. These have gotten quite tight. 3. There we go. If you find that your stitches are quite tight, by the time you pop them down onto the point, you should have some extra space there to work with. Oops, I just passed that one over without actually knitting it. So there we go. And then we repeat the process again. So I've just knit these ones are on the cable, so I want to push the ones that are on the cable back up onto the left needle. Okay. And you pull that needle out. And there we go. So they've gone up more easily this time. I think I knit that one a little more loosely than my cast on was. Sorry, that little bit of yarn is annoying me, so I'm just going to pop it down through the hole in the middle. So again, I've knit these ones with my working yarn, and you knit 1. You might want to, as you're about to knit the second stitch, you see you don't want to pull too much because you don't want to make that stitch too small, but you don't want a ladder either. So you might just want to pay attention to your tension there and just try and work out, do you want to pull that a little more tightly or not. So you can see we're creating a little circle of knitting there. And I'll just do this one last time. So pull this through, pull this needle out, and that should give you enough space to push them up onto the needle, and then you just continue knitting. There's another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, and just to give you a better view of what we're knitting, I've just pushed the whole thing back onto the cable. So there we go, there's the right side. Just move that out of the way. You can see we have a little tube that we've knit there with just those few rows. And you can see how nice and small it is, even though we've been knitting it with a really long cable. let me see, 2, 4, 5. So that's where we normally split it. And at the moment, because I do adjust my tension and I'll pull the yarn a little bit when I'm changing from one needle to another, I don't have a ladder there yet. Not that you'd really be able to see it, because I'm using quite a large needle with small yarn, and I haven't knit enough to be able to see a proper ladder yet, even though you can see one there. If this does happen at the start of your knitting, don't worry about it. Get a few rows in and you can actually use the tail to fix the first few rows. You know, you can just, as you're weaving it in, you can just create a little stitch there and it will bring the two together. So that's basically it. You put half your stitches onto the needle to knit it, then move them back onto the cable and move the next lot of stitches up to knit. So I'll just try explaining it this way just before I go, because it might be a little clearer to some. I take half the stitches, so there's 5 there, and I move the first 5 onto the needle to knit. As I knit it, they come around onto this side, and then the next 5 stitches have lined themselves up here, so I push them up onto the needle to knit, and the other ones have come back down onto the cable, so you can see that's where the circle is. So these 5 onto the needle, as you knit them, they move over here, and then they come back down onto this side and line up to go again. Okay? If you found that that hasn't been clear, I can cover it again. Just let me know, and I'll give it another go. I mean, these technical sections are no good to anybody if you can't follow them. So if you do have any feedback there on anything that might make it easier for you to follow what I'm doing, by all means do let me know. Next week I will be covering the Turkish cast on, and as part of that cast on I'm going to have to knit in the round, so that's why I did this first, and then I'll do the Turkish cast on next week. That cast on is used primarily for the toe of socks. It's similar to Judy's Magic cast on, which I covered a few weeks ago. Similar but different. So if you are interested in sock knitting and you're looking for a different way to cast on, next week will be one for you. Okay, I think that's it so for this week. As I've said before, if you could please like and subscribe, that would be a really big help. If you're in any knitting groups or anything like that and you think your friends might be interested, please do give me a mention. And also don't forget about the knit along that's starting on Friday, and that pattern is free, so hopefully some of you might like to sign up and you might enjoy that. Okay, thanks a million guys, take care, and I'll see you next week. Bye.